GA, GE, wherever you may be. Today, we are going to be talking about some more NFTs that have been popping recently. Pudgy Penguins had a weekend. They have been going pretty wild recently. There was just a 400 ETH Pudgy Penguin sale earlier today. We'll touch on that and just the general market of NFTs. Let's bring Tyler in here. So today we had somewhat of a busy weekend. Pudgy Penguins were basically everything that was going on in the news, and there wasn't really much else that was getting too much volume over the weekend. But what are you taking from this Pudgy Penguins pump?
Lou, it was a dark week in the NFT and crypto space. ETH was down 20%. NFT floors were down across the board. One shining light, it's the Penguins. The Penguins had a hell of a weekend, up 60%, and now 400 each sale. It's a great start to the week for the Penguins.
Yeah, this 400 ETH sale is kind of interesting. It's a lot of times when this type of thing happens, people just throw out oh, is it real? Is it just some sort of fake transaction? And I think with Luca, when he originally did, I think he did something similar where he had this massive buy of a penguin before he ended up buying the actual license, I guess you'd call it. But yeah, so this is coming from Kinky Bedbugs, who basically posted a tome and purchased this Pengu for 400 Ethereum. If you're not familiar or listening to the audio version of this podcast, this is the only Pudgy Penguin in the entire 8,888 collection that is facing left. So it is a one of one. It is the rarest. It's considered the rarest of all of these. And I believe this is now the highest sale all time for one of the Pudgy Penguins in ETH terms.
Yes.
Previous high was this exact NFT for, I think it was like 240 or something. But it was a loss in USD terms. So the person who sold this ended up net positive over 100 Ethereum and then net negative about 160 ETH. So there are what's that 5 one of ones in the collection. This one is considered the rarest by most of the rarity tools that are out there. And mostly because you could just say this is the only one that's facing left. Everyone else is facing right. Besides that, it's a pretty basic penguin. There's not much else going on. One thing with the Pudgy Penguins that's kind of fun about them is all the different accessories that they can wear that we've seen. And with this run, we also saw a run from the Little Pudgies, the Pudgy Rods, their secondary collections. But what do you make of this? So now they're sitting around 4 ETH. I forget where they were at on Thursday, but a week ago they were in the low twos. So
Yeah.
they've gone up pretty high over the past week.
Yeah, it's been a solid run. So last weekend they started building some momentum. They ran up to about a 3 ETH floor about 10 days ago. This past week, the undercutters came in early in the week. The floor dipped back to 2.2, and then it started creeping back up, into the 3 range. Momentum kept building this past week as they were just dropping announcement after announcement. We talked about last Thursday, the toys, the new marketplace. And then this weekend, the crypto Twitter influencers kind of they doubled down their efforts. We had Keyboard Monkey had like a pretty crazy story on Saturday where he basically said his wife couldn't believe he sold his best penguin, told him to get it back. He buys it back. It has an old listing on it from that known OpenSea bug. Someone snipes it back from him after he rebuys it for like 10 ETH more than he paid. He loses it again. Long story short, he gets into that guy's DMs and they work it out. But that event Saturday morning kind of captured Twitter's attention and I think helped drive some of the run we saw. And then, yesterday they dropped their advisory board announcement, and I mean it's a pretty solid crew here. This was the post at 5 p.m. yesterday. Their new Pudgy Penguins advisory board, backgrounds in Web 2 and Web 3, and then they list some of the names. They've got the CEO of Nansen, the COO of Sex, head of licensing at Hasbro, and then they've also got a secret superstar here, this gold bird. So a week of really big news, and then today was just kind of the icing on top of the cake with a 400 ETH sale, and we're up 66%. It seems like this is where some traders are starting to rotate now, with everything else bleeding out.
Yeah, it's funny. A couple weeks ago, we had this discussion, Pudgy Penguins or crypto dick butts, and it's pretty much if you didn't buy either of those two items, whatever item you had is down. And those are the only two that have gone up since then. At least in the, if you want to call them, I don't know how you want to really refer to them. I guess these are somewhat mid tier at this point in that mid 3-4 range. They're putting out that they are a legit project. I think that's part of it, and people are buying into it. It's not just all out a meme, where some of these meme like projects sort of hit a dead end eventually. This one, they have the CEO, they have this advisory board of people that have been in the Web 2 and Web 3 space and know how to run businesses. So I think that's where it gives a little more confidence into your buy now than when they were at 2 and they were just, oh, this is a cute NFT. So I do think that they have sort of made that statement pretty clear here in the past week.
Yeah, I think that's the big difference between this year's run and last year's run. And there's a lot of FUD going around Twitter. Oh, this is just a crypto Twitter pump and dump. How did it end up last year? Well, last year, it had the backing of a team of founders that no one believed in. Yep. And ultimately, they couldn't do anything with the project. They sat on the funds. They did some cash grabs. Everyone exited. But the whole time, everyone always liked the art. Like, everyone's always liked the Pudgy Penguins and the brand. Well, now there's a real team behind it with a real roadmap. And in 5 months, he's already started to deliver some real value. Like, go check out Pudgy Media. It's some of the best gifts and stickers for any NFT project. They have a marketplace. They have toys on the shelf. Like, how many other products have even launched toys? And I think something that struck with me is Luca Nets paid 750 ETH for this project, for the IP, for the brand. He has to work to make his money back. Whereas so many other projects, their founders get paid day one, and then like they don't really have to work, right? Like a lot of these, they're making 3 million, 10 million day one. This is an opposite scenario, and it's been refreshing to watch it play out.
Yeah, I definitely think that it's one of those things where it's a much more reasonable pump this time around than we had seen in the past, where it's just crypto Twitter trying to, just follow in the, at that time, it was following in the Cool Cat's footsteps. And it was just let's just do this for fun. We could beat them kind of thing. Now it's way more legit, and they're almost 2x the floor of a Cool Cat now. So I think that flippening has been pretty clear at this point as well. So yeah, so that's the Pudgy Penguins, and then we're gonna sort of talk about what this will lead into moving forward. I believe there you have the BendDAO stuff. So on the other side, on the high end, it's kind of been hectic, and there's been a lot more panic around things like Bored Apes and the CryptoPunks for, I don't know, I think it was even less than an hour, but punks were above apes for a little bit there. This BendDAO stuff is really affecting Bored Apes, and people that have been in the ecosystem are losing some confidence in that because, can this happen at any point in time, really? The whole liquidation. So Saris came out and brought up the BendDAO founder, who is doing some emergency changes to the protocol. So what's going on over at BendDAO, and do you think this is significantly affecting not just Bored Apes, but PFP market in general?
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack. It's definitely going to impact the entire PFP space a bit. I don't think it's as bad as like the liquidation spiral that was kind of making headlines last week. So just to kind of level set, the current state of BinDAO before these changes was that uh, loans were typically 30 to 40% loan to value on these assets. They would come up for liquidation if that loan amount reached 90% of the floor price. What we were seeing is a lot of these BAYC loans were done when the floor was 125 ETH. Well, guess what? The floor is like 70 ETH now, and that 90% price point is starting to get close.
Yeah.
They realized this over the weekend. All the depositors for BinDAO basically realized how risky these loans were, and they pulled all their remaining funds basically out of the pool. So there was 18,000 ETH in there heading into the weekend. It went down to like 50 on Sunday. I think it's actually creeping back up here today. And in response to that, they rolled out some changes going forward to these loans. So one, the liquidation thresholds are going to be brought down from 90 to 70%, which is a much better number gradually over time here. They're going to reduce the auction windows from 48 hours to 4 hours, and they're going to change the interest rates. I think most importantly, a new proposal about how they're going to handle these bad debts. So they run these auctions if an NFT gets liquidated. And at that point in time, it goes on to the free market for sale. But if it doesn't get a bid within 95% of the floor price, the DAO holds the asset. So it's not a fire sale. They don't just take the highest bid. And that's how there is some protection. But now they're going to be stuck holding all of these assets, and it's going to create essentially a floor for all the projects that are implicated.
Yeah. It's kind of interesting how they've adjusted this because, it's, I don't know. I guess if you were someone that got into this like months ago and now they're changing it now, do you think people would be angry because, oh, like this is part of the reason I did it was because of those parameters? Or do you think that people are mostly having the sort of positive reaction to this?
I think it's probably mostly negative at this point. I
Yeah.
mean,
Because it's like a
well,
panic reaction.
it's a bit of like a bait and switch also for the current
Yeah.
assets. I mean, over the weekend, their interest rates jumped from like 5 to 10% to 100% because they're
Yeah.
variable interest rates based on the deposits in their pool. So that was a big impact. And now, they're essentially changing every aspect of it. And I understand why. To me, it makes other protocols like NFT5 just that much easier, to look that much better, where you have set terms for a set limit and you don't have to worry about the variables changing
Yeah.
mid loan. So I think BinDAO is going to be in trouble. For the depositors, though, like, what did you expect? Like, you put money into a pool to be lent out, they lent it out. So, like, the fact that, the depositors might not get their money back, I mean, that was an implicit part of this. When you're lending against the riskiest asset class out there, you have to be conscious of this. So I certainly don't feel bad for the depositors in this situation, but I think they're going to be weary to come back.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's one of those things where if you were considering one versus the other, like now, why would you go to Bandao? So this could be like are they going to be able to survive? Because a lot of people that were part of it might be hurt by it. And then the other side of it, where, as you just mentioned, like NFT5 is going to look that much more attractive in the comparison of the two. So it'll be interesting to see how this one plays out. It, as shown there, like it's affecting some of the biggest projects. And with that, there's a lot of people that don't realize this is even happening. And all they see is the floor prices are going down on these assets. And so that's the other side of it, that it's also just negatively impacting the underlying assets, that now people are seeing, oh, why are the prices going down? Why are all these getting sold or being accepted for less Ethereum and things like that? So overall, this hasn't been great news for these projects in general, but hopefully it'll clear up a little bit soon here now with these changes that they've made.
Yeah, I think that the primary impact is going to be, even if these assets don't hit the free market, they're going to create essentially a new ceiling. So let's say the floors drop, all these get liquidated. Eventually, the floors start to rise back over time. Well, there's going to be a point where all these BinDAO assets are going to be unloaded. Like BinDAO does not want to hold NFTs; they're going to sell all of these. So it's just an additional wall of listings to get through, and it's kind of hard to see in the next 30 days ahead of the merge how any of these implicated sets are really going to go on much of a run with this happening. That being said, I mean, BAYC, if anyone survives the best, I think it will be them. When they dipped into the mid 60s on Sunday, they started catching some bids. And chatter seems to be going around that people are ready to fire on at least on these if the price is right.
Yeah, and I think it's kind of funny. We were at like 74, I think, on Thursday when we were talking, and part of this just has to do with the market in general right now. And Bored Ape Yacht Club is one of the big indicators of the rest of the market. But I don't know. I don't think this is all just from Ben Dow either. Like I think it was starting to drop. There has been just chatter in general about our our Bored Apes supposed to be this expensive. Did you check out the podcast that they were on with Full Send recently? It's got over 1 million views in the first few days and a lot of eyes on it. And obviously, the BIYC founders are in there talking about they don't really care about floor price. They're just trying to build a cool product. And there's some cool insights in there that they have. But yeah, it's one of those things where people that have held this long, it's hard to say like they want out, but at the same time, I think it's just becoming a little more pressure on them where they have held it this long. Maybe didn't take profits when ETH was over $3,000. Now it's half of that on top of things. So wonder if that's part of it. There are going to be people that are dumping it because of that, but um, it does seem like there's been this shift back to maybe punks are the better long-term holds. Do you think that people are shifting back to punks for that reason? Do you think there are people that are potentially, I haven't seen it a lot on Twitter, but sell an ape to buy a punk? Are there people shifting it now? It's pretty close to one for one at this point.
I haven't really seen that. I've been a little surprised. I kind of thought we'd see the reflippening and then punks would just kind of surge ahead. And that really hasn't happened.
It didn't hold, yeah.
And it seems like, I mean, one, I think that shows Yuga's strength. And, clearly BAYC assets aren't a fad. They're going to be around. They are considered, top NFT PFP assets at this point in time. I feel like they're just going to keep battling, neck and neck. If someone comes in and sweeps punks, maybe they get some momentum or some announcement comes out from their team now within Yuga that could make them go on a run a little bit. But I feel like they're mostly all just kind of trading with the macro right now, and probably in for some short-term pain. But like you kind of mentioned, who is selling right now. If you held for over a year, this is a tough time to sell. I mean, this is some short-term pain for people who were trying to make a trade in the next 30 days.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe like who wanted to get ETH loaded ahead of the merge. Like they are probably in the most trouble right now. But there's still a huge roadmap coming. The founders keep coming on these podcasts and spaces and reassuring everyone, hey, we've got big things coming. So it feels like a time to just kind of zoom out and stop checking the floor prices every day if you're holding an 8. But I realize how tough that can be.
Yeah, and I think it's also one of those things they talked about the metaverse a lot, and there's still a lot of people believe that metaverse and just the fact that like Facebook is getting into it, and all these big brands are starting to develop in VR, and the idea of winning the metaverse battle. BAYC has such a huge treasure chest that they can build it out in there. So it obviously takes time to build these things. And they showed the demo. The demo looked like it was built out well, but the thing is, you have to make sure a game is going to work in order to publish it out to more people. Because as we've seen, especially in this market, if you put out a product that people don't like, you're just gonna get funded to the ground. And seems like anytime Yuga touches something, it basically there's enough people that defend it from getting footed to the ground. But yeah, I think it'll take time, but they are still the leaders in metaverse and being able to win out on metaverse games, metaverse just hanging out. Not sure what you would call it, because he basically in the interview is talking about the metaverse as like a place for people to hang out and build together, not and games are one part of it. This isn't just a game at the same time. So I think a lot of it is going to have to do with how they market it. But I'll tell you, when I was out back a couple weeks ago, out with like normies, so to speak, um, they all knew about Bored Apes. Like everyone knows about Bored Apes. Like they've been enough to hit mainstream that for them to say they're building out a metaverse, they're going to be normies that remember missing out on it last year and are going to want to be involved in the next thing that they do, especially if the price point is a lot cheaper. So I still think long term, Yuga is the ecosystem you want to be a part of for things like that. So,
Absolutely.
so what else is coming up this week that you're excited for?
A few things on the radar this week. Um, let's start with maybe Puma, and they are dropping kind of a two-part project here in their first major NFT debut in Web3. So they're launching the Nitro token. It's a free mint, primarily whitelisted for their Caplox X Puma NFT owners, along with some pre-mint raffle winners. And then this is essentially going to get burned into the Nitro Pass on the 26th, which is going to be the access pass essentially for the entire Puma metaverse play. So whenever you see an access pass, I think that is always interesting. And I think there will be some market demand for that. There's only 4,000 of these. The supply is on the lower side, 0.1, 0.11 right now. So not, shooting out the gate by any means. But it's an attractive entry point, and it's another huge brand kind of stepping foot in the NFT space. So this could be one to take a flyer on here ahead of the 26th and their that Nitro Pass program.
Yeah, and we've seen Puma get into some NFT stuff before, so it's not like they're randomly hopping on board. They've been connected to some of the big cat-based projects. I'd say most prominently Gutter Cat Gang. I feel like the stuff they've done with Gutter Cat has been best of what they've done. Like the Cat Block stuff. Cat Blocks was, I don't know, not that big of a name of a project. It kind of that was why it was much of anything early on. So yeah, I'm interested to see how this one plays out. That's a good point. Like of these lower ends, we have seen that with some of the brand stuff where it holds up a little longer. Like remember Lacoste, like that one doubled, tripled in price after they closed off the mint. So yeah, this Nitro token is basically. Is it how many are left
So
on
it's
the
minted
Nitro?
out. I want to say
It is.
4,000 is the
It
full
is fun.
supply. So they're fully out there. So
Yeah,
now it's just going to be a few days of
yeah,
trading here.
and it's
Uh,
not that big of a supply either. That's the other thing with this. Um, whenever like Lacoste was over 11,000, so 3 times the supply. Currently, the same floor price. So I do think that Puma is one of those lower priced items that has room to double or triple. Uh, Decent entry point for a big name Web2 brand that has been into NFTs before.
I think a really important piece for this project is how quickly they roll something out for the Nitro Pass holders. So I think we
Hmm.
just brought up the cost. Like, has the cost done anything since they sold that mint?
Yeah, I
I
feel like
haven't
they
heard
haven't.
anything. And that kind of explains why it's trending back to zero. I think if you're going to launch an access pass, you have to have something ready in the first month, and maybe like something for the first quarter, right? Like a few drops to kind of keep people engaged and not who are just going to flip the NFT and move
Yeah.
on. So that's going to be an important factor to watch.
Yeah, I agree. So this one that I think could be one to keep your eye on this week, especially. Uh, I don't love this page. Like, there's not much flair going on to it. Even the description doesn't have a ton to it, which people want to know information. Is that blacked out on your screen, or is that if you hover over it? I don't know. I wonder how they did that. But yeah, they're purposely trying to hide stuff right here in the description. So
And I think that's one of the biggest pieces of feedback for them is like there's just such little information out there.
yeah,
And granted, it's been like a free mint so far, so okay. But now that people are going to have to buy on the secondary market, like they're going to want to know a little bit more about what they're buying, especially in this bear market. But it's not the only cat drop we've got this week, Lou.
no,
Finally, from Recur, we've got Hello Kitty and Friends, the Sanrio project that our friend Cam has been waiting months for. It's finally here. They're going to have their multi-day sale. It's got the three tiers. It's got your special Recur Pass allow list on the 24th, then the Recur Pass holder on the 25th, and the public sale later that day on the 25th. This should be the highest upside Recur product that we've seen so far. But I'm interested to get your thoughts on this one here too.
yeah. Hello Kitty is one of the biggest brands in the world, which it's kind of weird to like say it that way, but um, it it's one of the highest grossing franchises of all time, and people know about it all over the world. It's obviously massive in Asia. Um, Sanrio has connections now with the beans over at Azuki. So there is some background in NFT world. There's some connection to that. So I'm not trying to say that if you have a beans or a Hello Kitty that it's going to connect in that way. But yeah, this seems like a big enough brand that, like you said, the top one for Recur to be connected to so far. If you are a Recur Pass holder, the allow list starts on Thursday. So are you? I believe you fall in the allow list, right? Are you planning on minting this one? So that's Wednesday. Yeah.
So it's a two-part allow list. So only special Recur Pass holders get them to mint on the 24th. Those passes are going for $600 on the Recur website right now versus $180 for a floor. So general pass holders can't mint here until the 25th. But right there, that gives you an indication of the market value for these. So the market's valuing at over $400 right now, and it's going to be a $100 mint. So that's a 4x. We saw the Rugrats run all the way to 0.4 as the Recur kind of Genesis drop. I think the Hello Kitty could potentially follow suit there. Although, be forewarned, all the previous Recur have had a very quick run and then have fallen back out pretty fast.
Yeah.
So you got to be careful out there with this one.
Yeah, that is the one concern with these. But like you said, I mean, you can see there is a premium already being paid to get connected to this mint, and I believe the previous mints were only $50. So it's a higher cost currently. I still think the issue with this is the 10,000 supply, but at the same time, it seems like it's going to mint out. I'm not really concerned about that, and it should have that attraction. This is going to be the main attention seeker heading into the weekend. On Thursday, like I wouldn't be surprised if this one is a leader in the volume on that day. People will shift from their Pudgy Penguin returns and move it towards these Hello Kitties. So that's sort of what I'm expecting. Like, do you think this is the premier drop of the week?
Probably. Yeah. I mean, it's a quiet week, but
Yeah.
it's a good time for them. I mean, cute is hot right now, thanks to Pudgies
Yeah.
and Sappy
He's
Seals
back.
riding the cute meta.
Zappy Seals are almost up 2x as well. Yeah.
So it's a good time for them to drop. Anything that catches heat right now can. There's going to be room to run just because of how quiet the markets are.
Yeah.
They've got as good a shot as any. We're gonna have a nice preview when the auctions for the 6 1-of-1s start. I want to say that's on Tuesday, so we'll get a good sense for how much demand there is for the high end market on these.
Yeah. And I think most of the Nickelodeon ones sold for 4 ETH plus, I believe. Uh, it was like 4 to 8 or so. So we'll see if any of these Hello Kitties, if they're selling for over 5 Ethereum, I think that will be pretty bullish. Like, not trying to say these are going to sell for 20. If they do, however, that would be heavily bullish. But yeah, the top sale on this one, I think, was only around 10, and yeah, it wasn't even 10. So yeah, the auctions for these pretty much as expected, I think, at the time. Like, no one was expecting them to be 10 ETH buys, but they were relatively bullish heading into their mint that the auctions sold for decent amounts. So, yeah, I agree. I think that'll be an indicator there's going to be less one of ones in the Hello Kitty collection. So that might be another reason why you'll see them priced a little higher. But where are you expecting those one of ones to end?
I think they're going to need to be high. They're going to need to be 6 to 8 plus, maybe some even near 10. If they're falling below the Rugrats, that's going to be a really bad sign. And
Yeah.
man, it's tough seeing that for at 0.02. I mean, it got to 0.4. So there's, at least for these first few sets, there's not a lot of extended demand out there for these recur products. So my radar is up. Like, there's some real risks to this one, but it's one of the mega events of the week, so we got to pay attention.
Yeah.
But on Wednesday, we
Yeah.
also have a new Art Blocks project, which I think could be a sneakily good mint
Curated.
here. So
Vince
Curated is
curated.
back.
Yeah.
It's from a previous artist, Raphael, but he's working with Danny Wolfers. So they're allowing him to get back on the curated space. This has both an audio component and an animation component. You can see it here live on the screen. It's only 400 supply. And with how bearish Art Blocks has been, I think this one could go low. If it goes below 0.5, I think this one gets really interesting.
Yeah, that would be interesting because the one earlier today, it was factory, it ended at like 0.25 out of a 300 count. Obviously, it wasn't curated, which tends to land a little higher, but it did once it started mint out very quick. So with the only 400 supply, I think that's another piece that could be bullish about it. The previous one, as you're showing, only had 333, sitting at 0.66. So yeah, I think I'd agree with you there. Do those ones move
Yeah,
as
so he's
well? The
actually got
previous
three.
ones,
He's got three playground sets out. One of them has a 3 for, and granted, it's only 100
100.
supply,
Yeah,
but that's and it's got 178 lifetime, so that's some serious volume. Um, there's demand for Raphael's work, and that's
yeah,
why when you look at the market cap basis, this one should be priced between 0.8 and 1. If it goes in that range, it's like a neutral play. If it goes
mhm,
below 0.5, I think that's where it gets really attractive. He has some Endless Namus was his first drop, and it was animated as well. There's some similarities to that one, so that could be maybe some negative feedback. But this one has the infinite audio component, which is pretty cool. Anytime there's never an infinitely evolving aspect to it, that always kind of perks my ears. So that'll be some nice upside for this one, I think.
okay, yeah. I think I agree with you there on that. In this one, the animation to it is kind of neat and somewhat different than like. I don't see many that have that similar characteristic to it. Also, Another piece that's bullish to me. That first mint was black and white. Second mint was colored, which usually for art blocks like this, those black and white ones probably will sell for more. So it seems like there'll be some sort of rare lotto based on the coloring, which is also something that's nice to see as someone that if you're trying to buy on the upside of it. Can you click into that one, the black and white? Let's see how that one looks. Oh yeah, it's kind of cool. It kind of reminds me. There's this like old um, there's like those videos where you zoom out from like the ground on Google Maps. It kind of has that feel to it. And if is it an endless loop? It can't be endless, right? It probably resets
I think it might
at
be
some point.
endless.
But
Yeah.
yeah. All right. I think you're selling me on this one. It does sound pretty cool. Especially if it's gonna keep going. Yeah, I feel like it hasn't repeated yet. So
It's
this is a cool
cool.
one for Wednesday at that's like noon Eastern. Is that what that was? 1 Eastern?
Yeah, 1 p.m. Eastern is always on Wednesdays. Dutch auction. The min price is pretty low. Yeah, 0.25. If it goes down to 0.25, I think it's got some nice upside there. We saw fake it till you make it get all the way to 0.2 on secondary. Guess what? It rebounded to 0.4 over the weekend. I think
Yeah.
it's currently 0.33. So anyone who minted and held is now back in the green. That's one positive sign. So there's going to be somewhat of a floor for any art blocks curated that has any type of demand. And with 400 supply, you got to think this one will have a decent amount of buyers. But what might be a more interesting project is one that you sent over to me from GM Dow, Catharsis. Can you hear the audio on that one?
A little
I'll
bit.
send it.
Yeah. Catharsis. Yeah, I saw this one earlier as well. Have you seen a date on it? I'd commented on this asking the when and still haven't heard from it, but 999 of these GM Studio, like somewhat of a competitor to the art blocks, generative art. For me, like I've done projects like this. I don't think it appeals to enough people. It's a 0.15 mint price, kind of high, but I think it's flat across. And I'm assuming you have to have a GM pass, so that might mean it'll mint out faster. It's got this cool aspect of I think the idea behind this split panel kind of idea is that people will want to get multiple ones that you can combine uh, in that way, where you could have three of them that combine into one picture that you hang up on your wall. So that aspect of it, I think, is a cool piece. I'm not sure how much this is going to appeal for people, but I do think that they're trying to add some different dynamics to it to keep it interesting. Um, what do you think? Do you think this is art that would be appealing to you?
I mean, I like it. The supply is a little on the high side, but the entry price is really nice at 0.15. I think this one definitely runs to 0.6. It might have one ETH upside. There's going to be some rares like the ones that spill across multiple. I think will definitely carry a premium because you can create sets with them. Um, GM Dow's got some real momentum with Factura going on its run last month. I think enough people will like this that it'll have some success. But I don't necessarily disagree with some of your points. It's definitely not going to be for everyone. It's roughly it's a higher supply. But once we know the date, this will be one to really start to dial in on at that time.
Yeah, I think that it'll be interesting to watch this one because I think people have always kind of been looking for an art blocks competitor that could potentially be worth getting into. And if this one's a success, then maybe you'll see the GM DAO token move a little bit. Like people will want to get in on the next one because you want to get that allow list opportunity kind of thing. So I think that part of it will be interesting to watch. I'm not sure though, like if I'm planning on buying into it, especially since like I don't have the token to get in. I'd assume I can't. And then I'm not sure if I want to buy in on secondary. It might depend on if it's I would guess it's an instant reveal. But yeah, maybe if it starts moving pretty quickly and it seems like people are getting into it and talking about it and you see all the Twitter chatter, I'll hop in. But this is probably one that I'll end up passing. It's just not necessarily for me, I think. Just the splatter art, I feel like hasn't worked out when I've gotten into it. So the
Sure, sure.
999 is the interesting part, as well as you said, like that's nearly it's basically 3 times the art blocks count. So maybe what happens with the art blocks will uh this will be dependent on how art blocks is going as well. Like if art blocks is has a couple successful mints in a row or something,
Yeah, that'll definitely be a strong signal for this one. Um, and then I think the last one on my radar for this week is the Digi Daigaku project. They're doing an airdrop this week. I don't think we know when it's coming, but it is coming this week. Their floor has run from like the low ones to the high twos on the back of this news. It was just released, like I think I want to say Friday. The founder of Limit Break tweeted it out, and he's really upped his communication. He's been tweeting a lot more. Like one of my initial gripes with this product was there was just like no information, no communication at
yeah,
all. I think he's kind of taken note of that. It has a few spaces. No clue what this airdrop is going to be, but I
yeah.
mean, it could be big. And if it
Two and a
is,
half floor. Yeah.
I think it could really make this ecosystem explode because it's from someone who has some of the best chops in the whole industry. So it's going to be a big one to watch.
Yeah, and it's kind of popped up out of nowhere. Like even now, like there wasn't hype before the mint, really. As you mentioned, there wasn't much communication even during the mint, after the mint. So there have been some high sales though, and that is generally a bullish indicator on a collection if people are willing to spend up on these rarer ones. And I think the differences in the rare versus just the floor ones is pretty significant. That separation, like you can tell these ones are rarer and like a cooler aspect to them than those previous ones we were looking at. So far, like it's been pretty bullish. It didn't immediately crash, like some other projects that like a PXN or something that went up high pre-reveal, showed post-reveal. A lot of those anime projects have had that issue. Do you think they are benefiting from having the smaller supply though?
I think that's a huge part of it. Like, there really isn't that much buy pressure on this set. There really just isn't that much sell pressure either. It seems a lot of the holders are content holding this one for a while. We know they've got some VC backing behind them, so there could be some VC money and also likely longer term hold. So I want to say like 5%, maybe 5 to 7% is listed at any given time. The risk for this one is just, if he's going to build this into a game or a game ecosystem, of course, how long is that going to take? How are they going to be able to maintain market attention through a long NFT bear market? But that's what I thought last week. And then they announced an airdrop. So
Yeah.
if they keep these announcements coming, keep rolling out information, it might be enough to maintain the attention and the demand.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. Were there any other drops this week that you had your eye on or had been or anything that you're looking forward to later in the week?
No, this was pretty much it. The free
Mhm.
mint meta was pretty dead last week, but I wouldn't be surprised if we found a couple stealth ones for this week that could take off. So as always, kind of keep your eye out on the low cap sector. But yeah, this is pretty much it. It's going to be a quieter week.
Yeah. Cool. And then it's obviously like a lot of people are gearing up for NFL season coming up soon, but also next week is the Future Proof conference. So that'll be something to keep your eye out on this coming week if there's any updates to it, or just maybe you see moonbirds moving over the weekend leading up to that. I've kind of been expecting that going in, but we'll see it. I don't know if it'll be a bad sign if that doesn't happen or not, but that's just another thing to keep your eye out on. And definitely don't look away from the Pudgies. They're on a crazy path right now. So Wouldn't be surprised if next time we chat they're over 5 ETH, and that I think is how they're currently trending. But we'll see how the market, if there's enough people that are willing to get back into pudgies after being out for so long. So that's the secondary side to Pudgy Penguins and their pump right now. But yeah, cool. So I think got a lot that we brought up today that's coming out this week or to keep your eye on. Make sure you're following us at the Lucky NFT News for the update stuff day by day. And obviously Tyler _did_ it on Twitter, and then at Lee Dog Sherman on Twitter as well for our personal Twitters. And yeah, so besides that, we will see you guys